This BizNews production is brought to you by Brenthurst Wealth, South Africa's leading boutique wealth manager, trusted to guide families for over 22 years. Invest better with Brenthurst.
Are you surprised at what Jordan Hill-Lewis said when I asked him about coalitions with the MK party?
No, not at all. I think he has a fair point. If you look at the position that different parties take, if you look at, obviously, some people lean to the left, some will lean to the right, some will be centralist in their views. The MK is a leftist party. That's what it is. Do we have an issue working with people? Well, not at all. But it's got to be on terms that are manageable and that are respectable to each other's plights. Well, we're not going to be here to, we're not here to get bullied. We're not here to be dictated to. We're here to get a fair shake. That's all we ask for. So if you look at the results of the elections just under 2 years ago, was not a true reflection. I think we all know that. There was a bit of manipulation that happened. And if that manipulation didn't happen, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And once again,
what do you mean by that? Just unpack it for us.
Yeah, I'll unpack it for sure. If you look at the results, local government-wise, if we zoom in on the period that the IEC, for some miraculous reason, had a bit of a shutdown for just under 2 hours, I mean, that's unheard of anywhere in the world. Normally, if that happens, it has to be addressed, and if not addressed, there has to be a rerun. That didn't happen. We're not here crying over spilled milk. We've moved on from it, but we will keep saying, and we are in court with the IEC, to say, IEC, there's a certain result that came out that's not truly reflective of what happened. The numbers that have been projected to society are actually not the numbers. And those numbers, for example, if you look at what happened in eThekwini, it was 45%. They know very well. I mean, we expected a variance of maybe 3 to 5%, but it's definitely more. It's closer to 10 to 15%. And I think when the IEC comes out with that, if they are true to themselves, that result will show. That being said, we do understand that a lot of the swelling of the MK results have come from parties that some of us were once a part of, and I think moving on to these elections as well, those numbers will definitely increase based on the decline of what would be the ruling party and other smaller parties.
I don't want to spend too much time on this, but your father was very much around in 1994, and there were some very strange results, particularly in this province in 1994. Did he see anything there that perhaps informed the point of view that you have now, or why you're taking it to court? Because if you look at the numbers in 94, they were almost impossible.
Yeah. So look, I'll have to ask him that. I'm not sure. I don't want to give you an estimated response. He'll have to answer for himself, but okay. I'll get that response to you and ask him.
I interviewed Iva Ishikovitz earlier this month, and I'd never spoken to the man before, but he does the Africa Youth Survey, where they interview 5,000 youth on the continent, 18 to 24. And what came out there, the conclusion of all of it, was that I asked him, do you see the prospect of an Arab Spring in South Africa? Because South Africa is the outlier. As it is, youth do not believe the political system as it is at the moment. And South Africa is even worse when it comes to that scenario. How are you seeing, you mentioned a little bit earlier that people not voting and not having faith in it. How are you seeing that prospect when he says an Arab Spring, to him, to his view, is very high?
Yeah, so I don't think he's far off. And that's why I mentioned the analogy of Jacob Zuma keeping the wolves at the doorway. So we met with the IEC about 2 months ago. We had a discussion. It was along the lines of the numbers that Mr. Ishikovitz would be speaking about. And they showed concerns, and they've said it publicly as well, they've shown concerns on the decline of trust in the IEC, on the decline of voter participation in the elections, which speaks to the loss of interest and trust in the South African system in general. And I think if we borrow examples or lessons from the book called The End of Power authored by Moises Time, he's spoken about this, and it's an example that's popped up in most emerging markets, if not globally, and not just in the political sense, but in the corporate sense, where from boardrooms to parliaments, people are losing trust based on the mistakes that individuals or parties or organizations have made over a period of time that have led to famine, to war, to loss of income, whatever it is. And I think that speaks for what the situation is in most countries, and most especially South Africa. So from a South African perspective, you have a very disenfranchised youth population in general, but youth specifically, because I mean, we're majority youth in this country. And they're starting to voice their discontent with actions. So if you look at the political setup as an example, you look at the protest action, the nature of the protests, and how people destroy, whether it is in universities, whether it is current marches we've seen that started up early this year. It's people just basically showing their unhappiness. And that's why I prefer to take this approach to say, we need to meet each other halfway. And the reason for that is I've had conversations over a period of time, past 15 years, where I've made overtures to the powers that be, economic powers that be, in this country and outside as well, to have these conversations. And I'd say to them, and I'm saying again today in front of your audience, is we have to have these conversations, because when the time comes and we sit around that table, we cannot sit in a situation where it's too late, where we had the opportunity. We'll have our fights, we'll have our disagreements respectfully, but we have to come up with a solution and a way forward. It's two things. If you look at, I'm not a communist at heart, but I mean, we've read one or two things, but and I'm not a communist at all. So,
well, Chris Stone says you're going to out-capitalist Rob Hersov.
Where is he? When he's here, I've got some interesting conversations there with him. Yeah. He had some choice words for me. So, Rob, if you're here, it's me and you, buddy.
But are you a capitalist if you're not a communist?
I'm a businessman. That makes me a capitalist, 100%. Not a greedy one, but a capitalist at heart.
But with the position that you're in a populist party,
yeah.
How do you align those two?
We all have to find each other. In the party, we'll have to find each other. In this room, we'll have to find each other. It's a conversation. And there's going to have to be some room for concessions on either side.
Are you frustrated by the perception of MK? Because it's almost like MK has become this mushroom that's continued to grow, came out of nowhere. Yeah. And yet, from what you were saying to us earlier, it appears to be misunderstood.
Definitely. If you look at the history of politics in this country, there's been a lot of commentary that has happened, and to the most part, people have got it wrong. That's just what it is. And I feel this time around, it's exactly the same situation. Block the noise and just focus on what it is that we have to do. We have to pull this thing together. We have to work together. Once you block the noise, we all know where we're going, and we will get the desired result. There's a point that I wanted to touch upon, the Communist Manifesto, because it's quite important to where we are. It speaks about the proletariat overrunning the bourgeoisie. Proletariat being a fancy word for poor, and bourgeoisie being a fancy word for the rich. We're getting to a point, to touch upon what Mr. Ivo Ishkovitz would have spoken about. If we don't watch where we're going, the majority of this country that are downtrodden are going to overrun everybody. We'll be sitting. There are only a few people that have got dual citizenship. Only a few people can travel and live elsewhere in the world, but we'll be stuck here. Me and you will be enjoying Newcastle, one of the greatest towns. In case it...
Well, we think so.
No, definitely. And we'll be wondering where it all went wrong. We cannot let it get to that point, because the protest actions that we're seeing and the way that they're being done is no coincidence. If we don't look at those instances as warning signs. That's us to be held liable for that.
But in the interview with Chris Steyn, there were many things there that surprised me. And by the way, I've been looking for someone from MK to come to this conference. When you were elected as deputy president, I thought, wow, you're the right person. So it's not a belated last minute thing. It's very much,
I understand that.
and we really we've wanted someone here for a long time. But one of the things that you mentioned to Chris Steyn, which seems to be at complete odds with national policy at the moment, is that this idea of maybe buying people off with the social grants is not sustainable long term. What do you think about that now that you're in the position you're in?
Yeah, like I said, there's certain views. Everyone's got different views within our organization, and this is something that I have to expand on to the public as well. Everyone is welcome. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to be an MK voter. But there's a certain level of engagement that has to be had and idea sharing. So when it comes to the government purse, when it comes to certain budgets and the way that they spend, obviously there's a lot that's they've been found wanting on. If you look at government spend on grants, yes, we have an issue with poor people and people that need that leg up in life, but it can't be indefinite. There has to be a cutoff point. Unfortunately, we haven't had the good fortune, as per our previous administrations, including the current one, that we managed to get this grant system going and then managing to get our reindustrialization program going, because one fits into the other. So we've thrown a lot of money into supporting poor black people in the country, which has to be done. We can't leave them to perish, but at the same time, we haven't come up with a credible solution into getting them into the jobs market. And I've had this conversation. I've had the criticisms of our State of the Nation addresses, where one sounds like the other, and it's continuous. I mean, jobs are not going to be created by government. Government's not government's role to create jobs. They're legislators. It's private sector, But at the same time, I fully agree. Private sector has to be given space to flourish. Private sector has to be given a chance to grow. Once we get to a point where jobs are flourishing, private sector participants are paying their taxes, then we can start playing around and reconfiguring what works and what doesn't work. But for now, we just need to get the engine running and we need to get people employed. The only way is getting private investment, and that's something that I'll be championing 100%. And you'll see it in the city of Durban as we move forward from November the 4th.
Where do you stand on BEE today?
Where do I stand on BEE?
Where do you stand on BEE?
So if you look at its origins were fundamentally correct. You have two sides to that coin, and both sides are guilty, meaning the business owner and then meaning the newcomer to the business, the B company or the B partner or whoever it is. Now, you cannot have a situation where the markets, as much as we like to term South African markets as a free market, it's not the case for black people. And that's why we have this continuous debate on black people depending on government and government contracts, whether it's grants on one side or whether it's actual funding. On the other side, you have the white business owner or the white business that now is looking in and saying, okay, cool, I have to incorporate some newcomers into my business. So over a period of time, that concept has been bastardized, unfortunately, and has been taken advantage of on both sides of that coin, where on one side, instead of doing the right thing, you'll get the taxi driver or the help in the house to be a part owner in your business to avoid all the issues. And then on the other side of the coin, you have people understanding that there's that limitation on white business, and then they start calling the shots and not participating and not adding value to that business. So I think the one thing that I have to say is we need to find ways of incorporating black people and younger black people into the corporate space, into the private sector space, But at the same time, we also need to be careful on how we do that, because we also don't want a situation where private actors or private role players feel aggrieved. They leave, they disappear, they feel disgruntled. You know, it doesn't help us. It doesn't help us.
What the way you've articulated it so far has been, I think, will make quite a few people think differently, because the perception of MK is we're coming to power, we're going to be just like the EFF, we're going to take your businesses, going to take your land and chase you away. It sounds to me like maybe this is just politics.
No, not at all. That's not.
Where's your heart in all of this? Is South Africa a Mandela country for all people, or is South Africa only for black people?
South Africa is for everybody who's got the right to be. Anyone that's documented, 100% have got the right to be here. We all have lived, continue to live, and should live in a cohesive society. We have to live in this hegemony that's created South Africa to what it is today. But at the same time, we all need to understand each other's plight. You know, we need to take a look. We need to drive through the townships and the rural areas and understand that there's people going through some serious shit, and we need to deal with that. We can't just leave them there. And at the same time, the very same people that are in the poorest of the poor areas need to understand that, you know, there's businesses that are struggling out there, even if they're white owned. You know, the story of poverty is not just a black thing. There's poverty-stricken white people as well. You know, so from my side, those that know me, they know what I stand for. I'm not going to stand on a soapbox and try to push my own narrative. People will get to see that. But at the same time, we need to understand that this country will only work if we pull together.
So you've been in your new job for what, 7 days?
Yeah,
Correct
just
me?
about, yeah.
How's it going to be different with a person like Jordan Hill-Lewis, or indeed the ANC, or Freedom Front, Corné Mulder, who's here as well? How will the MK's approach to them, because there are opportunities for you to work together
That's correct.
in local government.
Yeah.
How's that going to be different with you as the deputy president of the MK?
Right, so I think if you look at where the MK stands, there's obviously a very leftist view. If you look at where the MK stands, they want to work with like-minded leftist parties. What is the term? The progressive black parties. That's what it's termed as. So that in its essence alienates everyone else in speech. But at the end of the day, at some point, and once again, I'll borrow His Excellency the Mayor's words, at some point, you can't predict the future. We might need to work together. From my side, I believe we should all be working together. But what cannot happen is what's been happening, where politics is overshadowed by people determining how we go from the back alleys and the shadows. That's not on. We need to be given space to do what we need to do to make the decisions that we need to make, and those decisions will benefit all of South African society, including the minority, white, Indian, and black. There's no doubt about that.
Well, we got lots of questions for you, as you imagined. Let's kick off with Marcus Kelly, who says, for Mr. Zuma, what are your views and stance on BEE? And what is your stance on transforming BEE to align with improving the lives of many rather than the few, and cadre deployment? So I think you've half answered the question, but the second part of it, cadre deployment and broad improvement of people's lives.
Yeah, so from my side, the way I look at it, it's a personal view, but it's also a view that will start being articulated as we go along in the party. Because if you look at the MK, it's a melting pot of new entrants who are coming from a lot of other existing parties. There are people that will obviously have a certain working culture from those parties. I don't want to mention the names and give them some airtime, but we know who we're talking about. They're on the way down, finally. But anyways, we're not going to accept mediocrity in this party. It's not going to happen. When it comes to people that are competent, when it comes to people that are going to get things done, we're going to take that very, very seriously. We are currently at a point where we are selecting our potential councillors and PR councillors, and we've gone on a roadshow and we're busy screening and vetting, so we're not found wanting and taken by surprise by the caliber of person. But this is something that we take very, very seriously. And I think as time goes on, as local government is formed, that'll be showcased to a point where, we'll be having conversations with people in this room. There's a lot of capable people. We'll need as much advice, as much collaboration. If people feel like they can add to the public sector, there's a desperate need for capacity. You pose the question to the executive mayor on meritocracy, but also the quality of people. And I think you touched upon that in the smaller municipalities. Those are real issues where finding good people is a very difficult thing to do, but we will find those people. It comes with its challenges. It comes with its time. It's not going to happen overnight, but we will get it done. So in a nutshell, the deployment of capable, willing, and able people is something that we're taking very seriously.
Kevin Hudson wants to know about land expropriation. It's a real concern for local and international investors. Your view?
That's why I'm here. I've come to expropriate this wonderful champagne. I was joking, by the way, guys.
Don't worry, Jane.
Don't worry, Mr. Hudson. I got you. That's that question is historic in nature. How far? I mean, we're having the conversation with. I don't want to mention his name to embarrass him, but a long conversation in the lounge, and we touched upon this. And he'd mentioned, how far back do we go to start dealing with these issues? Obviously, from our context, we're moving from the period of 1912 onwards. My view, which is a party view, is land expropriation without compensation is on the cards. It is a policy. It is something that will happen. Why I mentioned in my little talk earlier on, and why I'm saying it now, is there is an opportunity to have these conversations on the how. I don't want us to look at the land expropriation and all these policies as a scarecrow, like we're just going to arrive and start taking over bits of land. Yes, there have been those cases of other political parties doing it. Yes, there are cases of communities using that piece of legislation to do what it is that they need to do. But everything needs to be done in orderly fashion. Now, if you look at the hectareage of land, if you look at the opportunities that exist within the coverage of South Africa, we need to take it forward. We need to be the ones that are proactive on it. Let's not wait for people to come and say, we're here, this is what we want, this is what we're here to take. Let's give them the opportunities to say, look, this is us. This is a pocket of land as a starter, as good faith and goodwill to what the project of the government of the day wants to put forward. This is what we're willing to do. It's trial and error. Once again, land is more than just an issue of us getting a piece of land. It's collateral. It's something that you can build on, you can lease, you can rent. It's collateral. And it's something that we need to give dignity to Black people, because the truth of the matter is, you give people dignity, we won't have these issues of people running around destroying and ransacking. Let's give people an opportunity for ownership, and we won't have these issues.
I think there's a lot of certainly alignment of thinking there with those who you'd call white monopoly capitalists. Johan Rupert's biggest outreach is the Kayalam project.
Yes.
In fact, Christa Wieser's almost certainly going to talk about that tonight as well, because I'm going to ask him.
Sure.
But it's no-brainer, isn't it?
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer at all. Let's just, it's there. Let's just deal with it, and let's not wait for that wave to swallow us. Let's get to it.
Yeah, DeSoto as well. There's a heck of a lot that gets lost in translation, but if somebody owns their own property, it does make a huge difference to it. Gerrit Roos asks, is Marxist, socialist, and communist ideology still the answer? If not, what is the MK Party's answer? Should the Constitution be the highest rule of law, or should Parliament be the absolute law?
Okay, so Two-part question. I think from the constructs or the political constructs of Marxism and all those weird and wonderful constructs, I think there's an opportunity now for hybrid concepts, because I think there's definitely concepts that have been tried and have failed in this country. If you look at communism and just how it exists in the world right now, it's actually dwindled to quite a large degree. Because if you look at society, and I mean, Mr. Roos needs to just look at it this way. You take a look around at your friendship circle, communities you live in, the schools that either you went to or your kids go to. It's a melting pot. It's Cosmo. There's a mix of people, and you'll find when you have these conversations with the younger grouping, they don't even know what that means. That's just the fact of the matter. Are people still alive to those constructs? Yes, people have the right to look at constructs, political constructs that they believe work for them, and then it will take them forward. But as we stand, you look, it's a unique situation in the MK party. I mean, the president, and he's 84. I'm his deputy. I'm 44. We happen to be from the same family, but how he thinks and how he does things are completely different to how I think and how I do things. Does it mean it's right or wrong? No. Does it mean I'm right or wrong? No. But we have to find each other, halfway. Because if you look at certain solutions for today's problems, I've got a lot to offer. I think I'll leave it there. And then when it comes to the constitution and parliament, I think that's open for debate. It's to me, it's neither here nor there. I don't like giving a final point to what we think works and what we think doesn't work. I'm about engagement. I'm about pulling people together. If we have a unified decision, everything else doesn't matter. There's these terms that are used as divisive terms, and they're used as scarecrows to just keep us from pulling together. So I don't get too caught up in those terminologies.
It's interesting, that point, because the survey again, Ishikovitz was talking about the young people saying we need a different type of democracy, an Africa type democracy. I couldn't quite understand what he meant by that. Do you have a definition, or what do you think
sure.
an Africa democracy would be?
It's African solutions for African problems. That's just what it is.
But how would it look?
That would look, if once again, borrowing from the response that I gave to Mr. Roos, is Africa has changed. There's a lot of people that will speak about Africa being Africa, but I mean, we've traveled in Africa. We've been to the SADC countries. We've been to ECOWAS. We've been to the eastern part of Africa. We've done business. We've socialized with people elsewhere in the world from these countries. And the way that they see things is the same way that the youth in this country see things. It's a new wave of thinking. Some people might say it's westernized. We're living in the future. I think that the level of information that we're exposed to, the way that we expected to do things is different. I'll always challenge anybody as you're driving through the rural areas to visit whoever, families on small holdings, game lodges, safaris. When you stop over and you buy your snacks on the way, or just drive into the communities, have the conversations, you will find most kids, most youths in those areas will talk like you, will dress like you. Okay, it may not be the upmarket brands that I see in the room, but it'll be similar style. And that'll tell you that the mindset has moved on.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Tulani's question: it is widely known that coalition politics are mostly sensitive and unstable. The MKP has shown to be unstable since its formation. If the MKP gets some municipalities to run, how will it ensure stability in those municipalities, taking into account its own internal turmoil?
Yeah, so the MKP is a new party. I think it's common cause that I think it's a world first, that within the space of registration, 6 months into an election, a new entrant or startup political party has done what the MK party has done. So once again, to Tulani, I'll just say it takes time to build systems into an organization. You'd know that very well, but it will be done. We do have the back and forth. We've seen a lot of reshuffling within the party. And I think that's testament to how serious we are about having the right people on board. There's points that were made earlier on that there's party leaders that have been found wanting. And once again, we will not stand for people that are doing wrong within the organization. Because as we move forward, we do not want to place or field people into government that are going to take shortcuts, that are going to chip over the system, and they are going to take from the fiscus.
Rory Staines' question: the term white monopoly capital is a term created by Bell Pottinger, paid for by the Guptas. Does it have any credence today whatsoever, being so discredited and aligned with state capture?
Right. So that terminology, if that is indeed the case, I was not part of it, they can explain it. But from my side, what we need to be open and honest about is when you look at who controls investment in this country, who runs the markets, who has the biggest access to capital, it is white companies. It is white captains of industry. I'm not going to link that to the terminology WMC, but the fact of the matter is it ain't black people. So, Mr. Steyn, I cannot comment on the terminology that was put forward by Bell Pottinger on the Guptas. That's got nothing to do with me. But what I will say is, in the spirit of a conversation and what I'm proposing today is part of negating that description is to pull us all together.
Rob Hotson's question is: you mentioned that your voters trust you, MK, to take them to the promised land. Can you describe to us through the eyes of MK what the promised land looks like?
Sorry, I was going to take a sip of this thirsty water, the freshest water in the land.
From Newcastle.
From Newcastle.
Well,
yeah, from Rob Hudson. The promised land is the potential that this country has to look great, to feel great, to be great on a world scale. And what that means is for us to be in a position where the South African society lives in peace, stability, and access to amenities for everybody. Everyone having equal rights to hospitals, to schools, to water, to electricity. That's what the promised land looks like. So if you look at, to borrow a term from a late good friend who liked using it, DJ Warris, he speaks about the dream deferred, which is the promise that was made in 94 from the government that took over at the time. There will be no dream deferred. We're living in a different time. There's been lessons that have been learnt over the past 32 years. We know what works. We know what doesn't work. We know who's who in the zoo. And in hindsight, if you look at the crop of, let me call it, political leaders at that time, smart, educated, a lot of them, but they lacked experience in governance and administration. That's what it is. So if you fast forward to where we're at now, a lot of us are able to run the show. We're experienced, we've been around, we've got networks that are able to steady the ship. So I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's quite the opportunity for us to get to a point where we make that dream a reality. And I believe if we look at the outlook from where we're at now, in conversation and having like-mindedness, even with people that people believe we shouldn't be working with, that time will come. That's just what it is. Politics, and that's why I said earlier on, just block the noise. People are going to say what it is that they're going to say. They're going to insult. They're going to criticize, and eventually we'll get to a point where the noise dies down, and we will be here. We will be in charge. We will be in control. We will do the right thing. We will develop this country. We will open this country up to investment, and that will be part of our journey to the promised land. And it's not going to be a long journey. It's going to be short to medium term. I can guarantee you that.
If we can just get politics out of the way, if you have a look at the potential that exists in gold, there's as much gold in the ground in South Africa as it was mined since the 1800s. There's more oil and gas off the South African coast than Namibia. Namibia is the great new oil prospect.
Yes.
But we just get in our way. Are you expecting that with the work that you could do, you'd release those obstacles?
Most definitely. We're going to fast track a lot of economic opportunities in this country. we're not going to suffer from the African story of the resource curse, where you've got underground wealth that does not translate to above ground wealth. We've seen countries in the world that have developed first-class cities in a record time without having a single piece of resource underground. So it's doable. It's something that we're definitely going to push, something that we're definitely going to open up. And the starting point is the city of Durban, eThekwini. After November the 4th, it's going to be fast-paced. You'll be messaging me all the time for sure, because there'll be a lot that's going to happen in relation to what I'm speaking about. So it's not going to be a talk shop. It's not going to be long stories. It's going to be action. It's not going to be promises. I always say to people, I don't make promises. The only one guarantee I'll give is opening up the space for opportunities for everybody. You jump in, you get the opportunity. You don't, or you sit at home and complain. Not here to promise jobs. We're here to create opportunities for people to get involved on their own basis.
We've got so many questions, but I've got to ask you the same question I asked Jordan.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on General Mkhwanazi and indeed the Madlanga Commission?
Firstly, General Mkhwanazi, I have had the pleasure of meeting him a few years ago in his office, dealing with some community work in Newlands East, Ward 11. That's where I'm registered to vote in Durban, and a lot of issues of crime and homicides were happening at the time, and we needed some intervention from his side. And the promise that he made, he delivered on. It took a bit of time, but he's managed to get to a point where he's dealt with the situation. So I commend him on that one. Do I have a relationship with him? I do not. I hold him in high regards, like most people do. I think what he did was quite a brave step in exposing exactly what is happening in the law enforcement space. Still to be tested, of course, and I'll leave that for now. If you look at the Madlanga Commission, I think the Madlanga Commission there are a lot of bodies that exist in government. If you look at Parliament, there's SCOPA that exists. We wish that a lot of these bodies, the Public Protector's Office being another one, we wish a lot of these bodies would act like the Madlanga Commission. And in my view, if I had it my way, the Madlanga Commission would be a permanent feature that would be running on TV, if not on a daily basis, on a bi-weekly basis, where people are being held to account at all times in front of the country. So I do commend the work of the Madlanga Commission. I think there's been a lot that has been exposed. A lot still has to be tested in the court of law, of course. But at the same time, I think it has been quite interesting seeing what's happening behind the scenes and getting a insight into the issues that we have within our police force, within our judiciary to a certain degree, and certain connections between business people and politicians. Relationships always exist. Politicians, I know politicians, I know business people, but holding people to account and scrutinizing those relationships is something that should be ongoing at all times. And once again, we do hope that the level of work that's been done in the Madlanga Commission or at the Madlanga Commission will translate to prosecutions and cleaning up the system. It's high time.
Are you going to go to Parliament?
And have Ian Cameron on my neck every day. No. No, at the moment, I think I've a lot more to offer on the streets. I'm a boots on ground guy. And, Ian's in Sir Cameron's in Parliament, and, I commend the work that he did when he was on the ground, boots on ground in communities. I'm obviously, I don't know him. It's the first time I met him today. But we need that sort of activism in our communities. Doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter who you represent, as long as the job gets done. There are issues. We're able to solve those issues. We're able to come up with credible, sustainable solutions. That's what matters. The rest we'll catch up with down the line.
Jordan Hill-Lewis has sent through a question. He says, MKP specifically tried to interdict the Madlanga Commission from ever taking place. You're now saying it should be permanent.
Yeah, that's my opinion. I wasn't there. When was that? When did they interdict it? I've just been appointed last week, so don't hold me accountable, sir.
Okay, he's 7 days in the job. Okay. Dave Willem, who's also from KZN, says MK has been notably silent and absent in the Tongaat Hulett crisis. Dave was an activist with Tongaat Hulett, which is now likely to be controlled and owned by foreign interests. Given the sugar industry's strategic importance in the KZN economy, an MK stated policy of reclaiming the land and economy. Why has MK shown little interest in the unfolding crisis?
Yeah, so Dave, I think I'll fully agree with you. I think it was a missed opportunity. I'm here now. If that was the case, that would never have happened. Tongaat Hulett is, it's one of the gems of our country. It's definitely one of the gems of our province. It's a huge employer. Great turnover. It's a beautiful story. It's a long-standing story. It's got beautiful potential besides the sugar business moving forward. We're talking about construction, real estate, whatever it is that'll be repurposed for. I think it was a huge missed opportunity. Given the opportunity, with me being there, definitely will be revisited.
Close off, a word of optimism for this group that's here? Something that they can take from this conversation and say, okay, I can go home with some hope now.
All is not doom and gloom. What you do, who you do it with, who you support, who you vote for, that's your business. This is not, from my side, it's not in intention to have a political lecture. That's not what it was about. I'm speaking to you as a former business person. I'm speaking to you as a member of society, and I'm speaking to you as someone that has the utmost optimism in this country. I do believe that we're going to turn this ship around. I do believe it will happen in record time. I do believe that we will do it jointly because we left no other opportunity. We don't get it right this time, we might not have this opportunity to come and sit and have these conversations. So I honestly believe that the audience today gets me. They will understand me as I move forward. They will understand the party as well. And all I request is let's join hands and let's work together, whatever that means. Socially, economically, let's make it happen. My final point on that is never lose hope. This is your home. You belong here. You are multi-generational here. So are we. We are all Africans. We are all in this struggle together. We'll share in the successes as well. And let's not listen to the noise. Let's get the job done. I'm here. You can hold me accountable at any point. Do we have any fixing? We have a lot of fixing to do. MK party itself, and it's going to be done. When it comes to the country's got a whole lot of fixing to do, but there are a lot of opportunities that exist in the country needing to be rectified. And those opportunities are definitely going to pull us closer together. So get used to seeing this face. And by the way, also, I'm not endorsing the mayor, the mayor's party. I do like a good blue suit and a blue shirt and my polka dot ties. So please don't take it the wrong way as well. Are we even, sir? And yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for this opportunity. I mean, you don't have to sit in here and listen to this this clown that came from out of nowhere. I'm here, I mean well, and I think we'll do well together. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This BizNews production is brought to you by Brenthurst Wealth. A Mauritian trust offers a powerful solution for global estate planning. Invest better with Brenthurst. Start your day a step ahead. BizNews Insider. It delivers the business stories that matter every morning straight to your inbox, sharp, fast, and free. Subscribe now.